The Voinich Manuscript. Let's begin with a mystery that has mocked human intelligence for centuries. Picture a book created sometime in the early 1400s. Its pages are packed with plants that look like nothing ever cataloged on Earth. Twisting roots, star-shaped leaves, flowers that feel wrong. Turn the page, and things get stranger. You see circular star maps, zodiac symbols you recognize, then others you don't. And then, unexpectedly, illustrations of nude women immersed in pools of green liquid, connected by strange pipes, as if part of some forgotten system. And here's the real problem. Every single word in this book is written in a language no one can read. Not historians, not linguists, not even elite codebreakers who cracked wartime ciphers like Enigma. For over 600 years, the Voinich Manuscript has refused to explain itself. The book is named after Wilfred Voynich, a Polish book dealer who acquired it in the early 20th century. At first glance, it's unremarkable. Roughly 240 pages. No gold, no jewels, just ink and parchment. But the text itself is unsettlingly precise. It uses an alphabet of around 20 to 30 repeating symbols. The words flow smoothly. Patterns emerge. Statistical analysis shows structure, rules, syntax. Everything about it suggests a real language, just not one we recognize. Some believe it's a masterful hoax, a medieval prank designed to deceive wealthy collectors. But here's the catch. Creating a fake language with this level of internal consistency would be a monumental achievement, even by modern standards. Why would anyone go to such lengths, centuries before linguistics was even a field? Others think it's a lost language, written in a script that vanished with its speakers, or a cipher, letters rearranged through an unknown system, locked behind a missing key. In 2018, artificial intelligence entered the hunt. One study suggested the text might be a form of encoded Hebrew. Interesting, but not definitive. The meaning still slips through our fingers. And then there are the images. The plants don't exist. The constellations don't match our sky. The bathing women remain completely unexplained. Is this a medical guide? An alchemical manual? A spiritual text? Or instructions meant for someone who saw the world very differently than we do? The Voynich Manuscript offers clues. Lots of them, but never answers. It's a locked room mystery bound in parchment. A book that feels less like it was written for us, and more like it survived us. So what is it really? A brilliant deception? Or the last surviving fragment of a forgotten system of knowledge? And if this book could hide its secrets for 6 centuries, what other ancient mysteries are still waiting to be understood? The Antikythera Mechanism. Now we move to an object that completely rewrites what we think ancient civilizations were capable of. This isn't a myth. This isn't speculation. It's a machine. Over 2,000 years ago, someone in ancient Greece built what is, for all practical purposes, an analog computer. It was found in 1901, trapped inside a Roman-era shipwreck off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera. At first, it looked like nothing more than a corroded lump of bronze. Broken, worthless, almost thrown aside. But then scientists looked inside. Using X-rays and advanced imaging, they uncovered a hidden world. At least 30 interlocking bronze gears, meshed together with shocking precision. This wasn't crude clockwork. This was advanced engineering. The mechanism could calculate the movements of the sun and moon. It could track the 5 planets known to the ancient Greeks. It could even predict solar and lunar eclipses years in advance. And somehow, it also tracked the 4-year cycle of the Olympic Games. Let that sink in. This device was likely built around 100 BC. Yet it performed calculations that European technology wouldn't replicate for another 1,500 years. It's like discovering a jet engine buried inside a medieval cathedral. The craftsmanship is staggering. Some gear teeth are barely a millimeter long. They were cut with a level of accuracy that still impresses modern engineers. Even more shocking, it used a differential gear, a mechanism once believed to be a Renaissance invention. This allowed it to model the moon's uneven, shifting motion across the sky. So the question becomes unavoidable. Who built this? And why is it the only one we've ever found? The level of skill involved suggests this wasn't an isolated experiment. It feels like the product of a long tradition, knowledge passed down, refined, perfected. And yet, no other examples exist. No manuals, no workshops, no explanations. It's as if someone created a technological masterpiece, and then history erased the blueprint. Was this a one-of-a-kind marvel? Or are more ancient machines still resting in silence, buried beneath the sea? Because if the Greeks could build this, what else did they know that time has taken from us? The Great Pyramid of Giza. No list of ancient mysteries is complete without standing in the shadow of this monument. The last surviving wonder of the ancient world. A structure so vast, so precise, it still feels unreal. The Great Pyramid was built around 2560 BC as a tomb for Pharaoh Khufu. On paper, the numbers already sound impossible. An estimated 2.3 million stone blocks, each weighing about 2.5 tons. Some of the granite blocks inside the king's chamber weigh up to 80 tons, and were hauled from quarries hundreds of miles away. All of it completed in roughly 20 years. Just pause and imagine that. According to mainstream archaeology, the pyramid wasn't built by slaves, but by tens of thousands of skilled workers, engineers, stonecutters, laborers who understood mathematics, logistics, and teamwork on an astonishing scale. Stones were quarried, transported, and stacked using systems we're still trying to fully understand. The most popular explanation involves ramps. But what kind of ramps? A single massive ramp stretching endlessly into the desert? A spiraling ramp wrapped around the pyramid's exterior? Or something even more intriguing, an internal ramp hidden inside the structure itself? In recent years, scientists used cosmic ray scanning, yes, particles from space, to peer inside the pyramid. What they found was a large, previously unknown void. Some researchers believe it could be the remains of an internal ramp system. But even with ramps, the questions don't stop. How were the stones cut so precisely? The blocks fit together so tightly you can't slide a sheet of paper between them. How did they lift and position them with such accuracy? And then there's the alignment. The Great Pyramid is oriented to true north with an error of less than 1/10 of a degree. No compass, no modern surveying tools, no advanced telescopes. Just ancient eyes, ancient hands, and ancient knowledge. Of course, some theories drift into science fiction. Aliens, lost supercivilizations, forgotten technologies. And while those ideas capture the imagination, the real mystery may be even more impressive. Because if humans achieved this with ingenuity alone, how? The Great Pyramid doesn't explain itself. It simply stands there, silent and unyielding, daring us to understand the minds that built it. And if this is what ancient Egypt could accomplish, what other monuments around the world are still hiding their secrets? The Nazca Lines. Stretching across the sun-scorched plains of southern Peru lies a mystery carved not into stone, but into the earth itself. A vast puzzle of dust and geometry that refuses to explain why it exists. These are the Nazca Lines. Created between roughly 500 BC and 500 AD by the Nazca culture, these massive geoglyphs were etched directly into the desert floor. There are hundreds of them. Long, ruler-straight lines, perfect spirals, trapezoids, and then, suddenly, images, animals, birds, and human-like figures drawn on an almost impossible scale. A spider, a hummingbird, a monkey with a curling, spiral tail, and a strange humanoid shape some have nicknamed the astronaut. Some of these figures stretch more than 1,200 feet from end to end. And here's the unsettling part. You can't truly see them from the ground. The designs only make sense when viewed from high above, as if they were meant to be seen from the sky. But as far as we know, the Nazca had no balloons, no aircraft, no way to fly. So why create art for an audience that couldn't exist? The technique itself was deceptively simple. Workers scraped away the dark, iron oxide-coated stones covering the desert surface, revealing lighter earth beneath. The dry climate preserved the lines for centuries. But simplicity doesn't explain precision. To draw images this large and accurate, the Nazca would have needed a deep understanding of geometry, proportions, and scale. Small designs somehow expanded into massive figures without losing their form. Then there's the question of purpose. Some researchers believe the lines functioned as an astronomical calendar, aligned with stars, solstices, or celestial events. A few correlations exist, but not enough to explain every figure. Others think they were sacred pathways, routes walked during rituals meant to call down rain in one of the driest places on Earth. A message not to the sky, but to the gods above it. The Nazca lines offer no inscriptions, no explanations, just shapes stretched across the desert, waiting to be interpreted. So were they art? Maps? Prayers written on the land itself? And if they weren't meant for human eyes, then who were they really meant for? Stonehenge. When the Nazca lines fade into the desert, another mystery rises from the earth, this time in the rolling plains of southern England. Stonehenge stands on Salisbury Plain, instantly recognizable, endlessly debated. Millions have visited it. Countless books have been written about it. And yet, its true purpose remains stubbornly out of reach. Construction began around 3000 BC and continued in stages for nearly 1500 years. Generation after generation returned to this site, adding, rearranging, refining. Whatever Stonehenge was meant to be, it mattered deeply. The largest stones, known as sarsens, weigh up to 30 tons each. They were hauled from quarries roughly 20 miles away. That alone is impressive. But then there are the bluestones. Smaller, yes, but still weighing around 4 tons apiece. These stones were transported from the Preseli Hills in Wales, more than 150 miles away. No wheels, no horses, no oxen. Just human strength, wooden sledges, ropes, and determination. How they moved them is still debated. But why they moved them may be an even bigger mystery. Stonehenge is carefully aligned with the sky. On the summer solstice, the sun rises directly over the heel stone, sending light straight into the heart of the monument. On the winter solstice, the sun sets in perfect opposition. That precision suggests more than decoration. Many believe Stonehenge was an astronomical monument, a solar temple, a calendar carved in stone. But archaeology complicates that picture. Excavations have uncovered hundreds of cremation burials, making Stonehenge the largest known Neolithic cemetery in Britain. That raises an unsettling question. Was this a place of celebration or a place of the dead? Some researchers think it was both, a sacred site where life, death, and the heavens intersected. Others propose something even more intimate, a place of healing. Many skeletons found near the site show signs of severe injury or disease, suggesting people may have traveled great distances hoping the stones held restorative power. And then there's another possibility. That Stonehenge wasn't built for one group at all. That it was a unifying project, a massive collaborative effort that brought together different tribes across Britain, binding them through shared labor and shared belief. Stonehenge doesn't tell us which theory is right. It simply stands there, weathered and silent, aligned with the sky, daring us to decide what mattered enough to move mountains, one stone at a time. And if this circle of stones still holds unanswered questions, what other ancient sites are waiting just beyond the horizon? Helik. Stonehenge reminds us that meanings can shift over centuries. Cities, too, can vanish, sometimes so completely that history itself doubts they ever existed. For a long time, Helik was treated like a myth, a Greek Atlantis. But Helik was real. For centuries, it was a powerful city in ancient Greece, a thriving center of trade and politics, the capital of the Achaean League, and, fittingly, a major site of worship dedicated to Poseidon, the god of the sea and earthquakes. That detail would prove tragically ironic. On a cold winter night in 373 BC, the ground began to shake. A massive earthquake ripped through the region. Moments later, a towering tsunami surged inland from the Gulf of Corinth. By morning, Helik was gone. The city collapsed, flooded, swallowed by water and mud in a single night. Its people, temples, and streets vanished beneath the sea. Ancient writers recorded the disaster in chilling detail. They claimed that for years afterward, sailors could still see the ruins beneath the shallow water. Even the statue of Poseidon, standing upright, visible through the clear lagoon that formed over the city. But centuries passed. Sediment built up. Rivers shifted. The lagoon filled in. And Helik faded from memory, dismissed as legend, another moral tale about divine punishment. Until the late 20th century, two archaeologists, Dora Katsanapula and Stephen Soter, refused to let the story go. They studied ancient texts, geological evidence, seismic patterns, and after years of searching, they made a stunning discovery in 2001. Helik wasn't beneath the sea at all. It was buried inland, hundreds of meters from the modern shoreline, entombed beneath layers of river silt and sediment. The water had receded, the land had changed, and the city had been preserved like a fossil in mud. Excavations revealed walls, streets, pottery, everyday objects frozen in time, even human remains. Helik wasn't a myth. It wasn't a metaphor. It was a real city, erased by nature, then hidden by time. Which raises an unsettling thought. If an entire Greek metropolis could vanish and be forgotten, how many other lost cities are still waiting to be rediscovered beneath our feet? The Tarim Mummies. Some discoveries don't just add a new chapter to history. They force us to rewrite entire pages. In the remote Tarim Basin of western China, archaeologists made a series of finds in the 1980s and 1990s that left them stunned. Buried beneath the desert sands were more than 100 human bodies, naturally mummified, some over 4,000 years old. The environment did the work. Dry air, salt-rich soil. Time slowed to a crawl. Skin remained intact. Hair still clung to scalps. Clothing survived, woven and detailed, as if placed there yesterday. But it wasn't the preservation that shocked researchers. It was the faces. These mummies didn't resemble East Asian populations at all. They had fair or reddish hair, long noses, deep-set eyes, features typically associated with European ancestry. One woman, often called the Beauty of Lulan, had light brown to reddish blonde hair and delicate features. Her expression was calm, peaceful, as if she were only sleeping. And suddenly, history had a problem. What were European-looking people doing deep in what is now Western China 4,000 years ago? At the time, conventional thinking held that East and West remained largely isolated during this period. Long-distance migration across Eurasia wasn't supposed to happen until much later. But the Tarim mummies say otherwise. Their clothing shows advanced textile techniques. Their burial practices suggest complex belief systems. And their very presence hints at vast migration routes, networks of contact that existed long before the Silk Road was ever named. These people didn't just pass through. They lived here, died here, and were forgotten. The Tarim mummies quietly challenged the idea that ancient civilizations developed in isolation. So if people were crossing continents thousands of years earlier than we believed, what other hidden connections are still buried beneath the sands of history? Göbekli Tepe. For decades, we thought we had human history figured out. First, we farmed. Then we settled into villages. Then cities emerged. And finally, with time and stability, we built monuments and developed complex religions. A neat, tidy story. Then came Göbekli Tepe. Discovered in southeastern Turkey in the 1990s, it's rewriting everything we thought we knew. A massive temple complex dating back to around 9600 BC. That's nearly 6,000 years before Stonehenge and 7,000 years before the Great Pyramid. And here's the kicker. It was built by hunter-gatherers, people who hadn't domesticated animals, who hadn't invented farming, pottery, or writing. No villages, no permanent settlements, just small, mobile groups of humans. And yet, they created this. The site is made up of circular enclosures filled with enormous T-shaped limestone pillars, some weigh up to 20 tons. Each pillar is covered in intricate carvings: lions, boars, foxes, snakes, vultures. Artwork so detailed it rivals monuments thousands of years younger. Göbekli Tepe doesn't just challenge timelines. It challenges assumptions. It suggests civilization might not have grown from farming, but the other way around. To build something on this scale, people needed coordination, labor, and organization. To support that workforce, they needed a steady food supply. Some archaeologists now think they began cultivating wild grains specifically to feed the builders. So perhaps it wasn't agriculture that led to religion and monumental architecture. It was the desire to build a temple that sparked farming. This flips the story of human civilization on its head. Göbekli Tepe is not just ancient, it's revolutionary. And if hunter-gatherers could create such complexity, what other secrets about the dawn of civilization are still buried, waiting to be discovered? Sajama lines. If the Nazca lines amazed you, prepare for something even bigger. High on the windswept plains of western Bolivia, near the volcano Sajama, lies a network of lines so vast it boggles the mind. Spanning nearly 9,000 square miles, the Sajama lines are a labyrinth of thousands, perhaps tens of thousands, of straight paths etched into the earth. Some stretch for miles, crisscrossing hills and valleys, forming a web so intricate it's nearly impossible to grasp from the ground. Like the Nazca lines, the technique was simple, scraping away the darker oxidized surface to reveal lighter soil beneath. But the scale is unprecedented. The total length is estimated at around 10,000 miles, and yet the lines remain remarkably straight, navigating terrain with flawless precision. Why they were built is a complete mystery. Unlike Nazca, the Sajama lines don't depict animals or humanoid figures. They don't align consistently with the stars. Some appear to radiate from sacred sites, shrines, tombs, or ceremonial centers, hinting at religious or pilgrimage purposes. But the sheer number and complexity suggest a function we may not even be able to imagine. The Sajama lines are a testament to devotion and endurance. A massive, silent message written on the face of the earth, still waiting for its meaning to be deciphered. The Baghdad Battery. Our final mystery takes us to modern-day Iraq, the cradle of civilization. In 1936, near Baghdad, archaeologists discovered a small, unassuming clay pot, just 5 inches tall. Inside lay a copper cylinder, and within that, an iron rod. The whole thing was sealed with asphalt. It dates back to the Parthian period, somewhere between 250 BC and 220 AD. What was it for? Some say it was an ancient battery. Fill it with an acidic liquid like vinegar or grape juice, and the combination of copper and iron produces a small electrical current. Replicas generate about half a volt to 1 volt. Not much, but enough for some basic applications. Could the Parthians have been experimenting with electricity? Perhaps. The prevailing theory is that it was used for electroplating, coating objects with gold or silver. A clever, cost-effective way to make jewelry and ornaments shine. Yet skepticism remains. There's no other evidence of electroplating from that era. No tools, no artifacts, no written instructions. Some archaeologists argue it was simply a storage vessel for sacred scrolls, and the acidic residue came from decomposing papyrus. So what is it? A revolutionary ancient device, or a misunderstood container? We may never know for sure. The Baghdad Battery, tiny yet enigmatic, challenges everything we assume about ancient technology. It reminds us that the past is full of surprises, and even the smallest object can rewrite the story of human ingenuity. And as we look back at these 10 mysteries, from cryptic manuscripts to lost cities, massive monuments, and unexplained technologies, we realize one thing. The ancient world is far stranger, far more advanced, and far more mysterious than we ever imagined. Thonis-Heracleion. Imagine a city so powerful that it stood at the crossroads of ancient civilizations and then vanished without a trace, only to reappear millennia later beneath the sea. For centuries, ancient writers like Herodotus, Strabo, and Diodorus spoke of a great Egyptian port at the edge of the Nile Delta, yet scholars long believed it to be legend. That all changed in the early 2000s when underwater archaeologists made a discovery that shook the world of history. Off the coast of Egypt, in Abu Qir Bay near Alexandria, divers began uncovering remnants of a sunken metropolis, temples, colossal statues, inscriptions, and entire streets lying as if frozen in time beneath layers of mud and sand. The city was known by 2 names, Thonis to the Egyptians and Heracleion to the Greeks. It was once the primary gateway into Egypt, a bustling trading hub where ships from across the Mediterranean arrived laden with goods, ideas, and cultures. Picture this: a thriving network of canals and harbors, towering temples dedicated to gods like Ammonius and Khonsu, colossal statues standing guard over bustling markets, trade routes stretching far beyond the delta. But then, catastrophe struck. Natural disasters, earthquakes, flooding, and a phenomenon known as soil liquefaction caused the ground beneath the city to give way. Buildings, temples, bustling docks, and the lives of thousands were swallowed by the rising Mediterranean. For over 1,000 years, the city lay forgotten. Then, in 2000, French underwater archaeologist Frank Gaudio and his team rediscovered what had long been dismissed as myth. Since then, excavations have revealed ships buried in mud, gold jewelry, ancient anchors, stone tablets inscribed in Greek and Egyptian, and astonishingly preserved artifacts that paint a vivid picture of life in this lost world. Yet, even after decades of exploration, only a fraction of the city has been uncovered. For every monument brought to light, countless others remain hidden beneath the seabed. So here's the question that still haunts archaeologists. How did a city so central to trade, religion, and culture simply disappear, and why did its memory fade for so long? Thonis-Heracleion isn't just a sunken city. It's a submerged mirror reflecting how fragile even the greatest civilizations can be. And if this metropolis could vanish so completely, what other ancient worlds might still be waiting beneath the waves? If these ancient mysteries have left you questioning everything you thought you knew about our past, don't stop here. Join us at Strange Wise, where we dive deep into the secrets, the unexplained, and the astonishing stories that history doesn't want you to forget. Subscribe now, hit the bell, and step into a world where the impossible becomes possible, and every discovery makes you wonder, what else is out there, waiting to be uncovered?